The royal palace of Eldara had never seen such a day. Its golden halls, usually filled with whispers of diplomacy and soft music of lutes, fell into an unusual silence. Outside, the twin suns of the planet cast long shadows across the marble courtyards, but inside the court seemed frozen, as if time itself had paused. Captain Elias Rowan stood at the palace gates, his hands clasped behind his back. He was a man of distinction, known across human colonies for his courage and intelligence. He had faced hostile worlds, rogue aliens, and the darkness of space itself. Yet, nothing in his experiences could prepare him for what he was about to encounter. The palace doors opened and an attendant hurried toward him, bowing low. "Captain Rowan, the council awaits you," he said, voice barely above a whisper. Elias nodded and followed, his steps echoing in the silent hall. As he passed the ornate tapestries depicting the history of Eldara, he could feel the tension in the air. Something extraordinary had happened. He just did not know what yet. In the central hall, the royal council and the attending nobles were gathered. Their faces were pale, their eyes wide, and all of them focused on a single point. Elias followed their gaze and saw it immediately. A small figure standing alone on the polished floor, looking directly at him. The child was unlike anything Elias had ever seen. Its skin shimmered faintly, reflecting the light of the twin suns, and its eyes were large, dark, and impossibly intelligent. Its hair floated slightly as if caught in a breeze that did not exist. It was alien, certainly, yet somehow familiar in a way that made Elias's heart tighten. The room fell utterly silent. No one spoke. The child took a single step forward, then another, its small feet making no sound against the marble. Every eye followed, every breath seemed to hold, and Elias felt a strange pull in his chest, a mixture of fear, awe, and something he could not name. Then the child spoke. Its voice was soft, almost a whisper, yet it carried clearly across the hall. "Father," Elias froze. His heart skipped a beat, and for a moment the world seemed to tilt. Every noble, every attendant, even the council members themselves, held their breath. The word was impossible. How could this child, clearly of an alien species, call him father? He had no children. He had never been a father in his life. And yet, the sound of the word struck something deep inside him, like a memory he could not place. The royal high priest stepped forward cautiously, his long robes brushing the floor. "Captain Rowan," he said, his voice trembling slightly. Do you know this child?" Elias shook his head slowly. I do not." His voice sounded hollow even to him. He could feel the sweat forming at the back of his neck. The child's gaze was fixed on him, unblinking, and something about the way it looked at him made him feel exposed, as if it could see into his very soul. One of the council members, a stern woman with silver hair, whispered urgently to the others, "This cannot be ordinary. This child, it recognizes him. But how?" The high priest knelt slightly, speaking gently to the child. "Little one, do you know who he is?" The child looked at the priest for a moment, then turned back to Elias, repeating the word with certainty. "Father." Elias's mind raced. He thought of all the planets he had explored, the alien species he had encountered, the strange phenomena in the galaxy. He had seen creatures that defied science, planets that seemed to live, an intelligence that was almost beyond comprehension. But nothing had prepared him for this. A small alien child, unafraid, calling him father. He took a cautious step forward, unsure of what to do. The child did not flinch. Instead, it took a step forward as well, its tiny hand reaching out slightly, as if seeking something it had lost long ago. "Father," it said again. Elias felt something break inside him, a mixture of longing, grief, and a deep, sudden love that he had never expected to feel. Memories of a family he never had, of quiet nights alone on distant starships, of the children he had never known, all came rushing forward. He realized that somehow this child had awakened a part of him he did not know existed. The palace remained silent, the tension almost unbearable. The council members exchanged glances, unsure whether to intervene, speak, or flee. Even the palace guard seemed frozen in place, as though afraid to disturb the miracle unfolding before them. Finally, Elias spoke, his voice trembling. Who are you? The child tilted its head, considering him carefully. Then, in perfect clarity, it said again, Father. It was not a mistake, it was not a test, it was truth, simple and undeniable. Elias's knees felt weak, but he held himself upright. He knew at that moment that nothing in the galaxy was more important than understanding this child, protecting it, and uncovering the truth behind this impossible bond. The royal high priest, sensing the shift, spoke to the council. This is no ordinary event. Perhaps this child is a bridge between our peoples. Perhaps it is a sign that humanity has a role far greater than we can comprehend. Elias did not hear the words. All he could focus on was the small hand reaching out toward him, the eyes that held intelligence and trust far beyond their age, and the word that repeated in his mind like a song. Father. As he stepped closer to the child, the palace seemed to exhale, the silence breaking not with sound but with the weight of something miraculous, something larger than politics, science, or power, something that touched the core of what it meant to be human. Elias reached out slowly, cautiously, and took the child's hand. The moment their fingers touched, a warmth spread through him, a connection that defied logic and reason. In that instant, he understood that his life would never be the same. The royal palace was still buzzing with tension the morning after the child had appeared. Elias Rowan could feel it everywhere, the whispered conversations in hallways, the worried glances from the council members, and the uneasy looks of the palace guards. No one dared speak directly about the child, but everyone knew that something extraordinary had occurred. Elias sat alone in a small chamber near the palace's eastern wing, the alien child sitting quietly beside him. The child's large, dark eyes watched him with a kind of curiosity that made him both nervous and strangely calm. For hours the child had said nothing, simply observing Elias with intense focus, as if it were trying to read his thoughts. Finally, Elias broke the silence. You have no fear, he said softly, his voice echoing slightly in the high-ceilinged room. Most humans would be terrified right now. The child tilted its head, a faint shimmer running across its skin and the sunlight streaming through. The window. Then, in a quiet voice, it said again, Father. Elias's heart tightened. He had asked himself countless times whether he was ready to face danger, hostile planets, or alien politics. But nothing in his life had prepared him for this, the deep, unexplainable bond forming between him and a child from another species. Outside the chamber, the council met in urgency. High-ranking nobles and advisors argued quietly but heatedly, debating the meaning of the child's words. Some claimed it was a trick, a manipulation by unknown forces. Others suggested it was prophecy, an omen that could change the future of Eldara. This is impossible, said Lady Soria, her voice sharp. Humans cannot just be called father by an alien species. There must be a reason. We need to investigate carefully before acting. Yes, said High Priest Maltharion, stroking his long white beard. But we must also consider the possibility that this child is something more, something rare, something that could unify not only our people but all allied species. This is not merely a political matter. It is a moment of destiny. Elias remained unaware of the discussions outside. He focused on the child, who had begun, reaching out to touch the small wooden table in the room, tracing its fingers across the carved patterns. The child seemed fascinated by human objects, touching them gently, as if discovering them for the very first time. Do you understand? Me? Elias asked. The child nodded slowly, its expression solemn. Do you know what you're saying when you call me father? The child's eyes blinked, then it said, Protector, father. Elias swallowed hard. Protector. That simple word explained part of the mystery. In this alien language, father did not only mean a biological parent. It could mean someone who cared for you, someone who would keep you safe. Yet even with that knowledge, Elias's chest tightened. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on him, heavier than any starship command he had ever held. He thought back to his earlier adventures, to uncharted worlds where he had found alien children left alone or in danger. He remembered how he had always tried to protect them, even when it was risky or impossible. Could this child be connected to those missions? Could fate be drawing him to this moment? Meanwhile, the palace began to take precautions. Guards were stationed near the chambers where Elias and the child stayed. Scholars and scientists were summoned to observe, take notes, and report anything unusual. Despite their curiosity, no one dared force the child to speak or act. Even the most skeptical nobles felt something sacred in the presence of the alien child. Elias, sensing the tension, tried to focus on the present moment. "We need to understand each other," he said softly. He pulled out a small notebook and began drawing simple symbols, showing the child how to recognize them. The child watched, then carefully replicated the shapes with a trembling hand. Each attempt was imperfect but deliberate, showing intelligence, and Elias Rowan could not sleep that night. The palace, though quiet, seemed alive with whispers and unseen movements. The alien child slept in a small bed beside him, its soft breathing a reminder of the bond that had begun to grow. Yet Elias's mind was restless. Questions swirled around him like the distant stars he had once traveled among. Where had this child come from? Why had it called him father? And what did it mean for the future of Eldara and humanity? Before dawn, Elias rose and quietly left the chamber, careful not to wake the child. The corridors of the palace were dim, lit by soft torches that cast shadows on the marble walls. As he walked, he passed the council chambers where murmurs had already begun. Advisors and scholars whispered urgently, debating the child's significance. While the guards looked tense and alert, Elias knew that the palace's curiosity could turn into danger if the wrong people acted hastily. He needed answers, and he knew where to find them. The palace archives, hidden deep within the eastern wing, contained records of the galaxy's early exploration, including forgotten encounters with alien species. If there was a clue, it would be there. The archives were vast, rows upon rows, of holographic records, dusty tomes, and ancient manuscripts. Elias moved quickly, scanning the files with his experienced eyes. He sought anything related to the species of the alien child, any report of similar beings, any record of humans connected to them. Hours passed as he pieced together fragments, following threads of information that had been nearly lost to time. Finally, he found a series of records from a mission he had led decades ago. The files detailed a remote planet, uncharted and largely abandoned, where he had discovered a small colony of alien children. They were fragile, frightened, and alone, their parents long gone, due to a viral outbreak that had swept the planet before humans arrived. Elias remembered the guilt that had haunted him. He had tried to save them but had not been able to protect them all. Some had vanished and he had assumed they perished. His heart quickened. Could this child be connected to that mission? The timelines matched, and the child's species appeared identical to the ones he had encountered. But how could it recognize him now, years later, after traveling light years from that distant planet? Something beyond science was at work. Elias's thoughts were interrupted by movement. The child had followed him quietly, its small steps almost soundless. It tilted its head, looking at him with those deep, intelligent eyes. "Father," it said softly, the word filled with certainty and trust. Elias knelt beside the child, trying to calm the whirlwind of emotion within him. I think you might be one of the children I tried to protect long ago," he whispered. "But how? How did you survive? How did you find me?" The child reached out and touched his face gently, as if confirming that he was the same person it remembered. Elias's chest tightened. The realization hit him with full force. This child was alive because of him, in some way, and it had remembered him across time and space. The bond was not random. It was real, undeniable, and profound. He returned to the archives, pulling up additional records. As he read, a startling truth emerged. Humans may have unintentionally seeded life across several distant planets centuries ago. The child's existence was evidence of humanity's broader impact on the galaxy, something that scientists had speculated about but never confirmed. Elias felt awe and humility. Humans were capable of creating life, shaping worlds, and forming connections that transcended species. But there was danger too. The palace was still full of people who saw opportunity in the child's uniqueness. Some wanted to study it, some wanted to control it, and some saw it as a tool to gain power. Elias knew he had to protect the child at all costs. Not only was the child a link to humanity's past, but it was also innocent, vulnerable, and deserving of care. As he pondered the next steps, the child clung to him gently, sensing his worry. "Father," it said again. "Safe?" "Yes," Elias replied, holding it close. "You are safe with me." The child's small hand pressed against his chest, and in that moment, Elias felt a surge of determination. Nothing would harm this child, not politics, not science, not anyone who underestimated the power of human compassion. That evening, Elias met with High Priest Maltherion in private. "I have discovered something remarkable," Elias said, his voice steady despite the emotions inside. "This child, it is connected to a mission I led long ago. I believe it survived against all odds and found its way here. Its bond with me is not just emotional, it is a memory, a recognition that spans years and light years." The priest listened, eyes wide. Then the child's words, "It's calling you Father." They are not mere accident or metaphor. They are truth. This is extraordinary. Perhaps humanity's influence has reached further than we ever imagined. Perhaps this child is living proof that we can shape life itself, and that our choices echo across the galaxy. Elias nodded. "I feel responsible. I must protect it, and I must understand it. There are secrets here that could change everything we know about our place in the universe." The priest placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are ready, Elias, and it is no accident that the child chose you. You have the heart and courage to face whatever comes. But be warned, not all within this palace or beyond it will see the child as an innocent. Some will see power, and power is dangerous." Elias returned to the child's chamber that night, sitting on the floor and drawing simple patterns in the air for the child to copy. The child mimicked his gestures perfectly, showing remarkable intelligence and curiosity. As he watched, Elias realized that this child was more than a survivor. It was a teacher, a mirror of humanity's capacity for love, empathy, and courage. The child looked at him, eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. "Father," it whispered softly but firmly. "Together," Elias smiled, holding the child's small hand in both of his. "Yes, together," he said. "We will face whatever comes, and we will uncover the truth no matter how difficult. I promise you that." Outside, the palace remained a place of intrigue, whispers, and speculation. But inside that chamber, amidst the quiet hum of life and the flicker of torchlight, something extraordinary was forming, a bond that transcended species, time, and distance. Elias and the alien child were no longer just protector and ward. They were family, connected in ways the galaxy had never seen before. And as the night deepened, Elias finally understood the true meaning of the word that had changed everything: Father. The days that followed were filled with quiet discovery. The royal palace, usually a place of strict rules and endless protocol, now became a space for something extraordinary. Elias, Rowan, and the alien child spent hours together, exploring the palace grounds, sharing moments of laughter, and learning about each other. Every day, their bond grew stronger, deeper, and more undeniable. The child had a fascination with the simplest things: the way sunlight fell on the marble floors, the fluttering of curtains in the evening breeze, even the sound of Elias's boots echoing in the hall. Everything fascinated it. Elias watched with awe as the child's small, Hands reached out to touch textures, feel the warmth of light, and learn the patterns of the human world. It was learning, not just through observation, but through connection, through trust, and through a curiosity that seemed endless. "Father," the child said one morning, pointing to a small garden behind the palace. "Grow?" Elias smiled. "Yes, we can plant flowers here," he replied, kneeling beside the child. Together they dug into the soft soil, carefully planting seeds, and Elias explained that it would take time for the flowers to bloom. The child's large eyes widened in wonder, and it clapped its hands softly, delighted at the thought of something growing with their care. The palace staff watched from a distance, unable to hide their surprise. Even the most skeptical nobles noticed the transformation in Elias. The hard, disciplined captain had softened, revealing patience, warmth, and compassion that many had never seen. And the child, in turn, seemed to respond to Elias's emotions, sensing joy, calm, and even sorrow, mirroring feelings Elias didn't realize he was showing. Late one afternoon, as the twin suns began to set, Elias and the child sat on the balcony overlooking the city. Elias thought back to his life among the stars, to the lonely nights aboard distant ships, to the missions where he had faced danger alone. And now, here was this small being, completely alien, yet capable of love, trust, and understanding. "Father," the child whispered, reaching for him. "Safe?" Elias held the child close, feeling the warmth and the heartbeat against his chest. "Yes," he said softly. "You are safe. I promise you that." The child rested its head against him, and for the first time Elias allowed himself to feel the fullness of hope, the weight of connection that stretched across worlds. As days turned into weeks, Elias began teaching the child more than just words. He showed it the ways of humans, how to read, how to communicate, and how to understand emotions. The child responded eagerly, quickly grasping concepts that surprised even Elias. It laughed when it succeeded, frowned when it failed, and always reached out for Elias's guidance. Every interaction strengthened their bond. Elias also began to notice the child's own unique abilities. It could sense danger before anyone else, react to situations with incredible intuition, and even communicate feelings through small gestures that humans fully understand. The child The peace of the palace was fragile. Even as Elias Rowan strengthened his bond with the alien child, whispers of concern and curiosity had begun to ripple through the royal court. Some saw the child as a miracle, a symbol of unity. Others saw opportunity, a chance to gain knowledge, power, or influence over humanity itself. Elias sensed the tension in the air, and he knew that it was only a matter of time before danger arrived. It came quietly, first as unusual activity among the palace staff. Guards were replaced, scholars were assigned to watch the child more closely, and certain nobles began asking questions that seemed innocent, but carried hidden intent. Elias noticed it all, his instincts honed from years of space exploration, alerting him to threats before they became visible. One evening, as Elias and the child played in the palace garden, he sensed movement in the shadows. A group of cloaked figures slipped along the walls, avoiding the torchlight. Their presence was deliberate, calculated, and dangerous. Elias's hand instinctively went to the sidearm he no longer carried. It was a gesture from habit, a silent warning. "Father," the child whispered, tugging at his sleeve. Elias knelt to meet its gaze. "Stay close," he said, his voice low but firm. The child nodded, understanding without fear. Its trust gave Elias strength, but he knew it also made him a target. Anyone who wanted the child would have to go through him. Later that night, the palace erupted into chaos. The cloaked figures made their move, attempting to reach the child's chamber. Alarms rang, torches flared, and guards scrambled in confusion. Elias reacted immediately, positioning himself between the intruders and the child. The small room became a battlefield of strategy rather than brute force. Elias's mind raced, recalling tactics from his military training, every decision precise, Every movement calculated. The child, despite its size and age, did not panic. Instead, it remained close to Elias, following his instructions with remarkable intuition. When Elias ducked behind a column, the child mirrored him, eyes alert and calm. At one point, the child even reached out, guiding a guard away from a trap, with a gentle gesture, as if understanding the danger instinctively. Elias felt a surge of pride and relief. The child's intelligence was extraordinary. By morning, the intruders had been repelled, but the palace was shaken. Nobles whispered urgently in the halls, questioning security and motives. The council demanded explanations, and many suspected foreign agents or rival factions within Eldara itself. Yet none could explain how the child had remained unharmed, protected by a single human against organized threats. Elias met with High Priest Maltharion in the quiet of the archives. "They came for the child," he said, voice tense, "and they will come again if we do not act. Some will see the child as a weapon, some as a source of knowledge. If we are not careful, the palace itself could become a battlefield." The priest nodded gravely. "You are right, Elias, but you are not alone. There are those who believe in the child's innocence, in its message of unity. We can protect it, but you must remain vigilant. Trust is not enough. Strategy and planning are necessary." Elias returned to the child's chamber, his mind racing. The child looked up at him, large eyes filled with curiosity and unwavering trust. "Father?" it asked softly, sensing his tension. "Yes," Elias said, kneeling beside it. "We will be safe, I promise. But we must be clever, and we must be ready." The child nodded, gripping his hand gently. Together they began discussing plans, not just for play, but for survival. Over the next few days, Elias trained the child in ways appropriate for its age and abilities. He taught it to observe, to anticipate movements, and to respond to danger without fear. The child absorbed everything quickly, surprising even Elias with its memory and intuition. They moved quietly through the palace, identifying exits, hidden rooms, and secure locations. Their bond, already strong, became a partnership, a shared determination to face whatever threats lay ahead. Meanwhile, the palace council became aware that the child was more than an innocent visitor. Scholars marveled at its intelligence, and some began to suspect that it might possess knowledge of humanity's early missions across the galaxy. Whispers of its origins spread among the noble houses, creating a mixture of awe, fear, and ambition. Elias realized that the child's survival depended not only on physical safety, but also on secrecy. One night, as the twin moons of Eldara rose, high in the sky, Elias and the child sat together in the highest tower. The city below was peaceful, unaware of the danger lurking in shadows and whispers. Elias held the child close, feeling the steady rhythm of its heartbeat. "We are stronger together," he said. "No matter what comes, we will face it side by side." The child leaned into him, pressing its small hand against his chest. "Together," it repeated, a simple word filled with meaning. Elias smiled, feeling a profound sense of purpose. The child was not just a being to protect, it was a reminder of humanity's capacity for love, courage, and unity. Just as Elias began to feel a moment of peace, a sudden noise echoed from below, the palace gates forced open. The threat had returned, larger and more determined. Elias's eyes narrowed. He rose, the child at his side, ready to face whatever came. Their bond, forged through trust and care, gave him strength. The intruders may have had weapons, numbers, or strategy, but they did not have what Elias and the child shared: a connection beyond fear, beyond logic, beyond danger. And as they descended the tower together, Elias whispered, "Stay close. Trust me, and we will survive. Together." The child nodded, its eyes shining with courage and understanding. In that moment, Elias realized that whatever challenges awaited them, their bond was stronger than any threat. And humanity's greatest strength was not its technology, but its capacity to care, protect, and connect. The palace might be a place of danger, intrigue, and uncertainty. But within its walls, Elias and the child had something no one could take away: each other. And together, they would face the storm. The palace of Eldara was quiet again, though the echoes of recent chaos still lingered in its grand halls. Elias Rowan walked through the corridors, the alien child walking beside him, hand in hand. The child's small fingers were warm and steady in his grasp, a reminder of the trust and bond that had carried them through danger. The council had gathered in the central hall. Their faces were tense but attentive. Nobles and scholars alike had been debating the child's fate, weighing its uniqueness, intelligence, and the meaning behind its words. Elias knew the council's decisions could shape the future, but he also knew that no political maneuver or scientific discovery could break the connection he shared with the child. The child looked up at him, large eyes filled with quiet certainty. "Father," it said softly, echoing the word that had changed everything. Elias smiled, feeling the depth of their shared journey in that single word. High Priest Maltharion stepped forward. "Captain Rowan," he said, his voice steady and solemn, "you have protected this child through danger, uncertainty, and challenge. You have shown courage and compassion beyond measure. And this child, it has shown us all that bonds between species are possible, that understanding and care can transcend difference." Elias nodded, his heart swelling. "It is not just about protection," he said. "It is about trust, love, and the responsibility we have to one another. This child came to me not by accident, but because we were meant to help each other. Together we have faced danger, and together we will face the future." A murmur ran through the council. Some nobles exchanged surprised glances. They had expected political arguments, not a speech about connection and trust. But the weight of Elias's words could not be ignored. The child had survived, and its bond with a human was proof of something far greater than politics or power. It was proof of humanity's capacity for empathy and courage. The council deliberated briefly, then announced their decision. The child would remain in the palace under Elias's care, recognized not as a tool or a pawn, but as a bridge between species, a living testament to what humanity could achieve. Scholars would study the child not for exploitation, but to learn how humans and aliens could coexist, understand, and support one another. Elias knelt before the child, brushing a strand of shimmering hair from its face. "Do you understand what this means?" he asked. The child nodded slowly, its eyes bright. "Together," it said, repeating the word they had shared so many times. Elias smiled, the simple word carrying all the weight of their journey. In the days that followed, life in the palace began to return to a calm rhythm. The child learned more about human culture, about the history of Eldara, and about the stars that stretched endlessly beyond their planet. Elias guided each step, teaching patience, curiosity, and compassion. And in turn, the child taught him the importance of seeing the world with wonder, of listening with care, and of embracing connection, even in the face of uncertainty. One afternoon, they walked in the palace gardens. The flowers they had planted weeks ago were now blooming, vibrant, and full of life. The child reached out, touching the petals with delicate fingers. Elias watched, struck by the symbolism: life, growth, and hope thriving even after hardship. "You see," he said softly, "everything grows with care and attention, just like trust and friendship." The child smiled, a soft glow in its eyes. "Together," it said again. Elias nodded, pressing the small H his chest. "Together, I